Outback doctor prescribed tablet 6, not 6 tablets, tablet number 6, from a locked box 650 k's away from the hospital. The patient was having a stroke. He survived, but how does a number treat somebody? Well, it doesn't. The number was basically an address inside a standard medical chest. A real doctor did make the call. Oscar's wife, Leisha, used that number to find the right item in the box at their station. It does sound simple, but Australia had to solve 3 problems before this box could work. The doctor needed a voice, both sides needed the same list, and the number had to survive radio static. So who was the patient? His name was Oscar Brown,
G'day, mate.
a temporary caretaker at Proa Station 650 k's west of Townsville. He just sat down for a cup of tea when he told Leisha that his world is starting to spin. She laid him down, called the Royal Flying Doctor Service, and opened the chest. The doctor said,
"Put tablet 6 from the medical chest under his tongue."
Leisha didn't need to know the medicine's name. She just had to match the number from the doctor with the number in the chest. That solved Oscar's immediate problem, but to use the same system across the Outback, people first needed a way to reach a doctor. Well, luckily, from 1929, Alpha Traeger's pedal wireless let people contact a doctor without mains power. They literally powered the radio with their feet. Bro, could you imagine having to pedal to use your iPhone? That would be crazy. Yeah, anyway, 1929, Alpha Traeger, pedal wireless, feet powered radio. These messages were then sent with Morse code. It wasn't until the mid-1930s that you could speak to a doctor over voice radio, which was great because now doctors could actually hear you. But now the problem is that they had no idea what was in the cupboard. One station might have proper dressings and useful medicine, and the next might have old tablets, an empty bottle, and a box of Band-Aids. So every call kind of ended up being this very slow stock take. So in 1939, the flying doctor Keith Sweetman, sweet name, realized that they were basically wasting all this radio time just trying to work out what each station had. And, time sensitive, people dying.
Please help me.
His answer was kind of pretty straightforward. You just make every box have the same thing. So this program began in 1942 with 52 sturdy, lockable steel boxes, had the same basic medicines, dressings, equipment, the same contents list. So every item had the number, and now the doctor and the caller shared this catalog. No one had to describe a mystery bottle. That was just number 4, number 5, number 6. So this was kind of less of a first aid kit and more like a pharmacy and a toolbox. And it turned out these numbers really mattered because radio back then still sounded like radio. I mean, radio now still sounds like radio. So long chemical names, running through 1930 static isn't exactly what you want when you're trying to give out medication to a dying patient. So a short number was easier. It also kind of worked when packaging changed or the brand changes, bottles. So this is good, right? Leisha and the doctor were both using the same numbered list. The doctor still made the medical decision. The number just told Leisha which item the doctor meant, even from 600 odd k's away. This medicine number wasn't the only number this whole system used. There was at least 4 different sets of numbers, and each had their own different job. The first was the item number, which identified the thing inside the box. Then there was the body number, which in 1951, nurse Lucy Garlick introduced what was called the Where Does It Hurt chart, where different parts of the body had numbers. So over a bad radio, you could just say where it hurts, like it hurts at number 6 or 7. The third number had nothing to do with the body. It belonged to the physical medicine chest. So each box had a registration number showing which box it was and where it was kept. The fourth belonged to the consultation. So when a doctor authorized prescription medicine, that number went into the register and helped replace what was used. So we had item number, body chart number, box registration, and consultation number. So we have 4 numbers, each kind of removing this different kind of confusion. Now, I know what you're thinking. It kind of sounds like a vending machine full of drugs. But of course, anything in this box is prescription only, and they only come out when a flying doctor authorizes them. And there is also a registered custodian who basically keeps the box locked and checks its contents. There's also a lot of compliance around recalling what was used and replacing anything that's missing or expired. The caller or the patient themselves would chat to the doctor would make the judgment, and then the person beside the box just follows the instructions that were given. Anyway, let's jump back to Oscar. So he has been getting progressively worse. Luckily, the box did help Leisha act quickly, provide some relief for Oscar, but unfortunately they can't examine his heart. So the next best thing they can do is get him into a car and take him to the town's airstrip. From there, the flying doctor did land, collect him, and flew him to Townsville Hospital, where they ended up finding a hole in his heart, which had caused the stroke. And Oscar did recount later that he would not be alive if it wasn't for this service, which I think is just an absolutely awesome service, that we have such a simple yet complex system that provides almost immediate help in the most remote areas in Australia. And what's great is these medical chests are still used today. The consultation might happen over the phone or via video call, but the RFDS supplies and maintains 2,370 medical chests around Australia. And a screen can connect you to a doctor, but it can't put the medicine in the room. And that is what I think is so cool. You can find the right medicine while the plane and the doctor are still on their way.